Hey guys, today's guest is and I had to write this down. It's on my phone here. I had to take notes. Otherwise I would literally forget everything about to say to you, because today's guest is a rare and powerful force in the world of healing. She's a doctor of clinical psychology with over, I had to reread this, 30 certifications in integrated alternative medicine. Now here's what blew my mind. She's one of only 50, and I got to check her on this to make sure it's legit. Only one of 50 therapists in the world trained in holographic memory resolution, which is a breakthrough method for resolving trauma at the subconscious level without re-triggering the pain. She works with individuals, families, and an elite group of professional athletes, bringing together science, energy, and deep emotional insight to create lasting transformation. A summa cum laude graduate of Loyola Marymount and Pepperdine, Dr. Shannon's approach is both deeply intuitive and clinically grounded. Dr. Shannon, welcome to the show. Let's dive right into what true healing really means.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome, but I do feel dumb. I really do feel, talking to you, I feel like I'm back in third grade. This is no bullshit, I've never met anybody who's one of only 50 people in the entire world who's certified in a certain area. Talk about that.
Actually, it's, I would say that it's unfortunate because there should be much better access and much more awareness and training in these alternative methods that I think are so very effective, especially when paired with mainstream methods. So I don't think that the rarity of that is anything but the fact that we're just not exposed to other ways of training in our education system. And we have to go out and get that ourselves. And that's unfortunate because we should at least have the understanding that there are a lot of other methods out there that exist. And, it would be up to us to go and get that training. But that's one of several different alternative tools in my toolbox, I would say. And, I learn new stuff every day. I think the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know.
Right. Okay. And that's very well put and humble at the same time. Let's talk about this. 30 different certifications.
Yeah. That's my addiction. I think learning and wanting more knowledge always is the thing that drives me continually. I would do it on my own. I feel like every day, if I haven't learned something new, what did I do that day? So I think that's just my mindset, the way my mind works. I'm always searching for better, more effective solutions.
Understood. Do you think, now that's a great question, because I find myself with an addictive personality in certain areas of my life. I also have to ask the question. Sometimes I ask, am I feeling that I'm overcompensating for other areas where I feel like I'm lacking? That's a question I ask you. Is that a fair question?
That's a very fair question. And, I think all of us have certain proclivities, but they're always an underpinning of neurobiology, right? Like, why do we get addicted to anything? We get addicted to anything because for that time frame, it makes us feel better, right? And so addicted is a term that we can throw around, and, there are different forms of it, but we're always looking for two things. Either we're looking to reduce pain. If we have pain somewhere, we're looking for reduction in pain. And we're looking, once the pain is mitigated, we're looking for pleasure. So give us something that makes our brain feel good. And so there's no shame in that game. It's just the way that we're wired. Now, how we choose to deal with the things that are giving us pain. Do we choose to numb it? Do we choose to focus on it? How much do we focus on it? Because sometimes the pain can become our identity. I think a lot of times with talk therapy, that is some of the problem, is that we become our problem rather than seeing our problem as a challenge and a way for us to rise up and become more of ourselves, more powerful in the way that we deal with that. So I don't like labels at all. I know they're useful. I know diagnostics are useful. I use them every day, but I also am very wary to say, when someone says, I am ADHD,
Yeah.
or,
You're identifying with it, right?
depressed. Well, you're feeling something, but you're much more than that.
Right. Agreed. Yeah, I say that on my book is depression. Depression is not your destiny. That book's going to drop next month, and that the whole idea of that is do not identify with that thing that you think that's fucking with you, whatever it is.
That's
right?
right. Yeah.
So
And I think the narrative, I think there's so much power in the words that we either speak or the words that we say in our own head. We're not aware of the power that we have to change the narrative. When we change the story, everything changes.
1,000%. You cannot have a story. You cannot have an emotion or a feeling without thoughts or stories. The thoughts and stories are creating the feelings and emotions. So if you have in those feelings, the end result, then you want to reverse engineer it. What's feeding this? What's the story? What's the thought that's feeding it? The emotions, right?
And even at that point, because you can psychobabble yourself, in circles after a while, but at the end, it's like, okay, I understand the story. Like, I understand why I have the story. I understand what the story is doing and has done to me. Just choose a different story. Like, if that story feels like shit, then choose a different story.
Yes. Okay. There's work in that though. For somebody who was suicidal for 5 years and had ridiculous rumination
Yes.
that I couldn't turn off, especially at night, that made the insomnia something beyond. It's a fucking literally nightmare.
Yes.
So the work that you and I talking about this and somebody hearing it's like, I hear you, but I don't. No, it's not. And it takes work. And the problem is, this, you work with an elite group of professional athletes. You work with a lot of people. You know that there's a certain amount of people that are not willing to put in the effort to get the results. So like you said right here, you say you're not about coping. Okay. You made it very clear. You're not about coping. You're about resolution and cure. Right. So let me ask you this. What's one of the most misunderstood ideas about healing from trauma or mental health struggles?
That it's a journey that ends with coping, and that sometimes that's all you can hope for. And, I call BS on that. I think that we all are given challenges, and we all are very different in the way that we're made up. But every human being has the opportunity in the moment to choose a better feeling thought, a better feeling belief. And when you do that, and when you understand what happens when you do that, it literally is like this pharmacy inside your body shifts. And when you're choosing, and it is not easy, it is a relentless
Pursuit.
effort, right? When you're in the depths of it, when you're in the worst of it, it's the hardest. But that's when you need it the most. We get lazy, and when we're not in a challenging place, we forget to practice.
Yeah.
And anyone will tell you, anyone that's got any degree of, we're all experts in something, okay? Anybody that understands that knows how much practice does it take to make something second nature. Why do we have athletes in training camp that we have them all together, we isolate them from everything else, and that's all we're doing is we're doing training to prepare for the season? Why do we do that? Because your intuition and your instincts need to be what is happening on the field, or else you're going to get your head knocked off. But the only way to have the correct intuitions on the field is to train them off the field. And it's the same thing with our thoughts. If we think our thoughts are something that happens to us, right, which is pretty much what we're sold in Western society anyway, like, well, those are just thoughts and you can challenge them and you can, but it is a full-time job to, one, be aware of your thoughts, two, understand how that impacts your feeling and behavior and your presentation to the outside world, and then do something about it. If you don't like the thoughts you're having about yourself, and if you don't like what your quote unquote reality looks like, then quit looking at the reality you don't like and start looking at the reality that you want.
Okay, here's a question. Here's a question.
There.
Here's a question for you. And I've asked myself this, and I put this on post. Okay, so they come to you and say, Dr. Shannon, how do I feel good about anything when I feel like shit about everything? Okay, that's a question. A patient walks in, asks you that question. What's your response to them?
Pick one thing. Pick one thing and start. You have to pick one thing and start, because when everything is shit, shit is right in front of your face. That's all you're thinking about. It's all you're feeling. It becomes all you see. If I tell you that I'm interested in buying a red car, all of a sudden I'm noticing all the red cars out there, right? Because my perception has shifted, and now I am attending with my subconscious mind to red cars. If I change it to blue, I'm going to notice blue car. If I tell you right now, don't think of a pink elephant, right?
Yep.
So the trick is realizing that there's no absolute external reality. It's all subjective. It's all subjective. So if my external reality is based on my internal thinking and the chemicals that releases, I need to do some work on my external reality, but it's got to start here. If I think I'm shit and the world is shit and that's just my lot in life, then that's what I'm going to get. But if I change that, and even if I say, what if it wasn't? What if I just allowed myself to test it on some small area?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to test some small area where maybe it's not this predetermined, I'm just shit and everything's shit, or the world's out to get me, or whatever our beliefs are. If we can challenge it, then that persona that we've built up starts to crack, and we begin to see maybe there is something different. Maybe this shit works.
It does work. I'm living proof of that. And you've met enough people in your career, in your life. You can say the same thing. Here's the question I asked myself, and I have my followers ask this question, the same thing. And you got to sit with it. It takes time. But how would you feel if you did not feel fucked up by the thing that's fucking you up? And just stop. That's and literally just stop. Because your brain is going to answer that. It may not be an epiphany, or it's not going to start pouring down answers. But if you just stop and ask yourself that question, one question, and sit with it in a meditation and close your eyes.
But don't answer it, right? Don't answer it.
That's it. Just feel it.
That's the key. The key is the cool thing. And here's the cool thing about this. This is neuroscientifically proven. Okay. So there's something that our brain works off of, and it's called the confirmation bias, right? Mm-hmm. And so whatever I tell my brain, it's going to find evidence to confirm that.
1000%.
That's just science. That's not any woo-woo nonsense, okay? So if I'm telling my brain, I'm stupid, I'm not talented, I'm ugly,
hopeless, depressed,
whatever,
right?
Whatever. If we will find evidence in the external world and in the internal world that will prove that correct. So how do you flip the switch? I would say it's easier to flip than it is. I think it's much easier than we have made it out to be. I think we believe that because it feels so bad, it's going to take such hard work and such a long time for us to get any traction. But that's not true. Okay. What I tend to start with first, when people come in, I say, all right, when you have a negative thought or when you notice something negative, flip it into a question and say it like this. Why is it so easy for me to, and then fill in the blank. So if I want to get a new job, right? And I'm thinking, I'm never going to get this job. Every time I, go to interview for a job, I get turned down and I'm not qualified, blah, blah. All right. So what's the very opposite of that? Why is it so easy for me to find the perfect job? And the why is it is the question that you're asking your subconscious mind. And that thing's going 24/7. We don't
Always.
Never shut them off. We might remember 7 bits of information. Our subconscious mind's got all of that shit from
years
in the womb. It's got it. Okay. Let that thing work. That supercomputer's going all the time, but it's running on a program that is looking for danger, right? It's looking for the negative. Better stay safe. Oh, that could be bad. I'm not going to do that. We have to flip it and say, why is it so easy? So now the subconscious mind goes, oh, I'll answer that question for you. Let me just start my Why is it so easy for me to fill in the blank? And it's like imagining somebody gives you a magic wand and you get to wave it around, and what would make it perfect? What would make it perfect right now? And you begin to shift your perspective, and you've got to keep doing it because you've built up years and years of the opposite.
Exactly.
Fear-based focus.
Right.
And if we shift to fire-based focus, right, it changes the game completely. But you got to do it. It feels like a million times a day. It almost makes you feel like I'm more fucked up than I thought I was.
Right.
Because I'm now noticing all the negative things that I do and say.
Yep.
But you've got to notice it and then actively make a change in it. And 99% of it starts here. But you'll notice as you're doing this, stuff starts to kind of feel like it's falling out of the sky. Like all of a sudden the next day you meet somebody that introduces you to somebody that's got this job that seems and the external world shifts, but the external world will always reflect the internal world.
100%. Yeah. 100%. What you're saying is everything I did, and I said, I literally an hour ago, got out of the gym, put a post up saying, the reason I went through 5 years of hell, solitary confinement, like someone locked me in solitary confinement, darkness, took the key and walked away. And I was fighting for my life for 5 years. Yeah. However, once I finally got through that, now I'm on the other side of it. I haven't experienced a day, not one. There's no bullshit here. I have not experienced one day of depression. Now, do I get mood changes? Like, I'm human, but I'm not depressed. And
why is that though? That's not an accident. Why is it that you don't feel what we would term depression?
I know why, because I'm constantly I rewired this.
That's right. You won't let yourself go there.
No.
Depression doesn't come like this. Depression is a progression.
Right.
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 And so if I catch something, if I have a cut on my arm, right, and I notice it right away, I catch it and I do something to treat it, to stop the ripping and open soreness and get it to heal. It's not going to progress into, gangrene. I'm not going to get a terrible disease from that because I've noticed it. You notice the one little thought that leads to the next little thought, but you don't let it snowball. You say, nope, not doing that.
No.
That's maintenance, right? That's mental health maintenance.
Right. But you know what it took to get here? Thousands of hours of reprogram. Literally. I got to the point I was sitting meditation, and for the last couple of months, I've been sitting into 2 to 4 hour meditations between my walking treadmill meditation, visualization, reprogramming the brain, because it is, you know, this is it's neuroplasticity. It's malleable. There's neurons. The brain is like plastic. We know this. So I'm saying, you guys, listen to what she's saying. Don't take my word for it. She's got more degrees than half the people on the planet. Just listen to what she's saying.
You know, you can have all the degrees in the world, but
I want them to believe some credible. I know they may just say, "Oh yeah, he's an anomaly." No, I'm not an anomaly. I want them to listen to you, what you're saying, because what I did actually works.
Right. It actually worked. And I love to work with people that, I hate the fact that they're suffering, but I love to work with people that are like, well, I've tried everything else, nothing works. Well, all right, try this. Like, you don't have anything to lose. This works. And it sucks that we have to go through so many things that don't work. And it sucks that it has to get to that point where we can't function unless we do something about it. Right. But once you get down to that level, you tell yourself, I don't ever want to get back here.
Right.
Whatever I got to do, I'll do it because it's worth it. And these are the things we should be teaching kids in school. Like, these are essential skills at life. And we're not arming kids with what they need to be successful. Because if you want to be successful, you have to be functional. And if you want to be really successful, you got to be happy somewhere. You got to have some kind of joy.
Contentment, joy, happiness. You know, we're living in such a world of distractions. You know this. I mean, everything's snap your fingers are going to arrive. Everything's, now we want it now. And that literally changes the brain to think everything's like that. You must have people coming to you and say, look, I can't stand living like this anymore. What's my quick fix?
And I think that's a very valid thing to say. And I, as a shrink, I think it's my job to not only get to the root of the issue, which that might just be me figuring it out. But I need to give that person some relief. By the time they come to me, even for the first session, they are at the end of their rope.
Sure.
They don't come at the beginning. They come at the end. So my job, in my mind, is that I want to send them out the door feeling better than when they came in. And I want to send them out the door. And if I can't convince them to have hope, I make a deal with them to borrow my hope. Just borrow it until you feel it yourself.
Right.
But I do everything I can to get as many tools as are out there so that I can give them something experientially in the session that makes them feel better, that takes their pain and suffering from a 10 down to a 4, because they need that. They need hope.
They do. That's the first thing you have to have. And that's the whole idea of my channels, is to give you hope, courage, and belief that you can get through this. If you knew how dark it was for me, you would say, shit, if that dude did it, I can do it. There's a lot of skeptics out there and don't know about energy medicine. And you are and that's one of your top, that's what you do. You're very well versed in energy medicine.
Right.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So the skeptic out there is saying, well, that's the little, share some light on that, because they need to hear that from you, because obviously it works. You deal with some very elite athletes, some well-known people. So talk about this energy medicine, and what's one experience that you remember that results so well with trauma, that's so effective with trauma?
Well, I would say, first of all, that I was the biggest skeptic in the world. And, I think it's odd when someone comes in already believing in it. Like, I expect you to come in as a product of, our society, that you're like, what the hell are you talking about? And that's fine. And what I do think is it's a big vernacular, like a vocabulary issue. I think that everyone understands energy. They just use different words for it, right? Everyone has intuition, instincts. They just maybe frame it in a different way. I have never met a professional athlete that doesn't understand exactly what I'm talking about, just using different words. I don't think you can get to the level that they get to using their physical being to do things that seem literally impossible unless you're a master of it. You just don't call it energy medicine. You don't talk about chakras. You don't talk about, you know, the same things in the same way, but you're great at it because you can go out there and perform in ways that seem supernatural.
Right.
But to you, it's normal. And I think a lot of times, anytime you have a pocket of something that feels very natural and normal, but people look at you and say, how do you do that? Or how do you know that?
Mhm.
That's your kind of proclivity. It's very difficult to teach something that in your mind is just common sense. But I think a lot of what we make very esoteric and difficult, and I think there's a lot of ego involved, that people want to be a guru and I'm magic. I have these magic powers. Every one of us is
Has
aware
that.
that, yeah, of course, every one of us understands at this point in time that we're electrical beings, that we have electrical energy that runs every cell in our body, and it's measurable. We measure it in CT scans and in MRIs and x-rays. We measure the energy that our organs and our physical body is putting off, or lack thereof, block of energy.
Mhm.
I think Western medicine and technology is catching up with some of the things that human beings have been doing for thousands of years to help and heal themselves. So I actually think it's more of a vocabulary issue. It's like, learning something in a different business. Like right now, I'm trying to learn some things in like life and health insurance business.
Yeah.
And it's like, why don't you just say what you're talking about? But it's
Right.
all these different terms, and it's, you know,
Right.
so I do think that 90% of it is that issue. But all of us know when we walk in a room and get bad vibes about something, or all of us know when we go for a walk and all of a sudden we feel better, we have more energy, we our world kind of expands a little bit. That's all energy medicine. Energy medicine uses energy as the diagnostic tool, and it uses energy as the treatment tool, which in my mind makes all kind of sense, because you're using the problem to become the solution.
Makes sense. And would you agree, as I'm listening to you and feeling everything you're saying, and it takes me back to the question I have for myself, do I think I would have put that much time and effort into saving my life if it wasn't so intense? I promised myself this. My boy was 5 years old when I got hit with this depression. He's now 11. Okay. And I told him he's my why.
Yeah.
Okay. So if it wasn't as intense,
Yeah.
if I wasn't facing suicidal depression, would I have done the ridiculous amounts of work to get to the other side of it? And the answer's got to be probably no. So don't you recognize that in your practice? I mean, if it's not so bad, we can tolerate it. You're in the shallow end of the swimming pool. Your head's just above water. You're not drowning. You're getting by, and therefore, I'm just going to coast through this thing.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that we tend to do the least amount we can to get the most benefit. And when it's comfortable, it's almost like this subconscious, like, superstition that, well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to get broke. So, like, why don't we look at it? And I think we've sold ourselves this bill of nonsense that says, if nothing's really wrong, then everything's right.
Yeah.
And that's not true. And no matter how good it gets, it can get better. So keep getting better.
Right.
And I think what we tend to do is say, well, it's good
Not
enough.
so bad. Yes, not so bad.
It's not so bad. Like, there's some finite amount of luck, health, wealth, love out there.
Right.
It's infinite. And we deserve anything and everything. But you have to understand that it's out there. It's not going to come fall into your lap. You have to make sure that your vibration, your energetic signal out to the world, your bat signal,
Mhm.
is calling in what you want, not what you don't want. If I'm
Exactly.
focused on what I don't want, that's what I'm going to get. I'm going to get what I don't want, because fear is very powerful.
It
Love
is.
is more powerful. Trust is more powerful. But if we let the fear of X, Y, and Z run the show, we're always going to be making decisions, and we're always going to be moving forward in life based on what we don't want, which will actually bring it to us.
Certainly. And and I'm going to ask you this because your dad, Mike Shannon, professional baseball player, and then was a sports announcer for many years, and real good friends with Jack Buck, right?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, so real
They,
good
yeah, they were partners in the booth for years. Yeah.
years. Okay, so the question that I have for you is that do you think because of the environment you grew up in, because being a professional athlete takes a certain mindset. So was the influence of dad a big part of you having the mindset you have today?
Yeah. I was really lucky. I got the best of both worlds. My dad was extremely like old school, hard nosed,
No
you know,
bullshit.
no bullshit, no excuses. Eh, you never said like that's not fair. That never even like you would never even say. He'd be like, fair. Who told you fair? Who
Right.
who in the hell told you anything was fair? So it was all, there was no whining, there was no poor meing. But I also was super blessed because he chose my mom, who was the perfect fit for him. My mom was everything empathic, everything loving, everything like
Wow.
she wanted to be a nun when she grew up, right?
Wow.
Everybody that knew my dad called her Saint Judy anyway. So she kind of, but I had all of this soft, empathic love. And then all of this, you set your
Discipline.
mind to it and you do it. And he lived that. That wasn't just talk.
Right, right, right.
Every day he lived it. He would look at you like, what's the matter with you? If he didn't think anybody had a different reality than that. He
Hmm.
was so those two, and the cool thing is the common thread with the two of them was they were very instinctual and intuitive about the way they went about their life, and they loved each other so much. I think what was maybe missing in one was filled by the other, and so I know my mom and my dad gave me both the temperament and the tools to
Hmm.
become exactly what I am today. Now, I didn't always want to be this. I did this what I do is not even like it wasn't even a thing. Like I wasn't aware anybody did it. And so I feel really lucky that I ended up finding something that I could earn money from that was aligned with who I am and how I think.
Right.
But it was not a a straight path, and it was not like, oh, I know what I want to be when I grow up. It was almost, through trials and tribulations, like all of us, we grow and we have to make decisions based on either fear or fire. And I think that that's always the fight. Do I make the safe decision? Do I make the decision that fires me up? um I make those decisions every day. We all have to make those decisions. I was in an environment that was full of people at, I guess, the top 0.1% of what they do, and that was my normal. That still is my normal.
Hmm.
um it's everybody's got a different normal. Mine happened to be that, and so I think it makes me very good at relating to these guys, and I even think the fact that I'm a woman is helpful. A lot of times that was looked on as that's a problem. This is a potential issue.
Hmm.
But after the first couple of days, I think everybody knew that that wouldn't be an issue anymore. But most of the guys that I worked with, you know they if you come in and you talk to another man about some of the softer things or some of the more vulnerable things, it's much more difficult than to
Sure.
talk to a woman. Like when they sit down in the room with me, they know they're stronger than me. They know they're faster than me. They're bigger than me. Like there's no competition there.
Right.
So I think it actually, all the things that maybe looked like challenges ended up working well for me, and made me perfectly aligned with what they needed at the moment. But I also think, the fact that I grew up, I'm the kid of an athlete. My mom was the wife of an athlete. I'm extraordinarily respectful of that life and those families. And so, I, I know that there are temptations and challenges that are unique to that industry and that lifestyle. And so I think addressing those right up front, making sure that the families are taken care of, making sure that the wives are comfortable with things, and walking with a degree of, I understand that this is what we do and this is what we don't do here. I'm here to help you, and that's it. I never had an issue with anything along the lines of being female and is that weird? No, it's not
Right.
weird.
You actually worked with the Rams,
Yeah,
right? Okay. So
yeah,
you were their go-to. So
yeah.
not only did you work in that, but you actually married a Ram.
So yep, I'm currently, we're getting divorced now, but I'm currently still married to one of the coaches. Yeah. But he was not working like when I started working with the Rams, he wasn't there yet. So
I got
we
you.
met kind of through that, but yeah.
Right. So being in that space, what do you see as far as the that like you said earlier, there's a lot of ego in there, correct?
Yeah, but I would say you got to define ego. There is a need to believe in yourself, or if there's blood in the water, the guy across the line will smell it. And so you have to believe in yourself, but I think sometimes the biggest issue is, how do you address the fact that I don't believe in myself all the time? And I don't believe in myself in every aspect of my life. And I am really scared about even acknowledging that, because then what? And so to be able to have a space where they could do that and work through some of that stuff that made them stronger in the outside world was essential.
It's that leads me to the next question. So when you're in that environment, okay, these guys, when you look at an athlete from the outside, you're on the inside. On the outside, you look
It's hard. I've never been able to look at it from the outside. I don't know how to do that.
right.
I don't know how to be a fan. I don't know how to go to any game and not be like, oh, oh, oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, exactly. So you're looking at these guys as an outsider, looking at it and say, okay, because they're in the NFL, because they're playing for the NFL team, then they've made it. Like they shouldn't have any problems. But that's the furthest thing from the truth. They're still human beings.
100%. So they
Right.
come in with all the regular human being problems, many of which are amplified to a degree that is hard to understand. The higher you get in any profession, the more, people say there's like a target on your back. And for
Yep.
professional sports, everything you do and don't do is public information. And the people that are paying you are looking at you as an investment that can be bought, sold, traded. It's a very odd um it's a very odd space to be in as a human being, because you have to kind of put your human part aside sometimes. But if you compartmentalize that too much, it will screw everything up. And so there's a beautiful balance that you have to, it's a dance every day. And you see, when soldiers come back from war, they have a period of time where they need to adjust, and it's nearly impossible to go from wartime to peacetime, because you can get on an airplane and be in peacetime the same day you were just in the middle of a war.
Right.
And psychologically, that no one should be surprised that we have so many issues in certain populations, because we expect them to go from some superhuman mindset in battle to, okay, now when a car backfires, don't jump around and shoot everybody, right?
Yeah.
It's literally ridiculous and impossible to do that. And so we have all these issues. Sports, they get along with combat veterans so well. Athletes, they kind of speak the same language, not at all the same. I understand. I'm not saying that it's the same thing at all. I love veterans and working with veterans, but there is a loneliness that goes with both professions. Other professions like, emergency room doctors or firefighter, paramedics, you can be married to someone, love them very much, have your children, love them very much, and not want to share the darkness of what you have to do in your profession. That's okay, but it feels very lonely. And when someone is not with their team anymore, they get traded. That happens like that. When someone gets cut, it happens like that. So you go from 24/7 being, inundated and around people that understand it to now you're not. That's extremely difficult. And we don't give people the tools that they need to adjust, because there's no time, to adjust.
Right. So in your experience, you've had a lot of experience. Do you feel that a Black athlete versus a white athlete is going to deal differently with the depression, the challenges of being that athlete? Is there? Yeah.
I think every athlete deals with it differently, because every athlete brings with them their backstory, the culture and the environment they grew up in, all of the messages they got. And, it's part of my job to take those things into account and speak to that human being in a way that respects the cultural differences. One of the coolest things about sports is that it's such a melting pot. I think I grew up, when my dad played baseball, it was like in the 60s, right? And so these topics of race and nationality were hot topics at that time. And I think because of that, and because of the way my dad was pretty amazing in the fact that he saw a person, not a color. He used to always want to write a book called "There's Assholes Everywhere," and in his mind is like, I don't care if you're a president or the plumber, I'm going to treat you the same until show me different, right?
Right.
So I grew up that way, and I did not understand racism. It made I did not understand how human beings could get themselves to a place where they could actually believe something like that. But I also had the benefit of growing up in a way that this is our team. This is your teammate. Doesn't matter what they look like, what language they speak. You go out on the field and you are one, right? And so when you're dealing with a sports team in the team environment, not individual sports, in a team environment, you see a unique mix of people that have to figure out really quick, how are we going to get past our shit?
Sure.
Get out there and do what we need to do together.
Yeah.
Does it mean that their shit goes away? No, but there's a bit of a common, rallying cry that happens. And that's one of the really beautiful things about sports. I think people are brothers that would have never met any other way, and they know nothing about each other, but in that moment, they're brothers out there.
Sure. Yeah. The reason I asked that is because I come from an interracial marriage. Don't let the blonde hair fool you. So I've experienced that as a kid growing up. And what I'm seeing now is that I watch ESPN in the morning. I see Shannon Sharp as this really, this powerful man, and then I can't see Shannon Sharp crying or being upset or being that he just seems that type of guy that wouldn't be affected by some things that maybe somebody else would be from a different culture. A white dude. Am I in the ballpark?
Well, look, we all put different faces on, and we all have different parts of our personality and our persona.
Yeah.
I would say that the biggest, baddest motherfuckers are always the softest, biggest hearted people.
Yeah.
They are. And, I remember when I was with the Browns, I remember coming out of the office to grab some supplies.
Yep.
And the head coach looks down and goes, "Is she getting another box of tissues?" And
Wow.
I looked at him and said, "Yep, better in here than out there, because the tears in here is the blood and sweat out there." When you have a warrior has to have a big heart.
Yeah.
So they just know when they can allow access to that and when they can't. When you have people that are doing things without the heart, now you've got pathology, right?
Mhm.
Now
Yeah,
you've
yeah,
got,
sure.
and again, part of my job is to find those pathologies and make sure that during the 30-minute interviews, that's a no. But every strength comes from love or fear.
True.
And both love and fear can and will bring you to tears at the base of it. So I would say all great athletes are criers.
Yeah.
They just have to
What's
feel safe,
they
and they never feel safe around most people.
really? That's you
Oh,
notice, huh?
no. Yeah, never.
Interesting. What has been the greatest part of being in that space working with these professional athletes? I mean, obviously you're a daughter of one. You relate with these guys. It's familiarity to you. Like you said, you can't see it any other way. You can't see from my point perspective. So in that space, what's been the most rewarding thing for you, not only on a clinical level, but on a personal level too? What's that feel like to you?
My kids, I've got 6 kids, and they will catch me sometimes with this, like, they call it my mommy smile, right?
Yeah.
And I'll just, hold my heart like, "Oh, you sweet little thing, you sweet baby." And what I'm looking at on the TV maybe doesn't look like anybody's sweet little thing, right?
Yeah.
But when I see guys that I have worked with, especially when they were young coming into the league, and I see them out there not just thriving in their work, in their job on the field, but when I see them being well-rounded men
Mhm.
and having wonderful, loving families, and going out and doing things in the community and for charity and speaking out on mental health. I mean,
You're touched.
oh, like, wow. And so I just get so much joy from their success. When I say success, I mean when I know
Well,
they're happy in their heart.
right.
Because you find me anybody that is the best in the world at what they do, in order to get to be the best in the world, you have to have a lot of pain in your life. And you've probably not given yourself much softness or um, play. And so it's scary when you get to the point where you're the best in the world, and now what?
Yeah. Now what?
I still feel like shit, and I still have my demons, and I'm still a mess. And you're a mess despite the fact that you're the best in the world. But can you be the best in the world and a little happy? And a lot of times it's
It's
fear that
hard.
keeps them from looking at that. Like, no, that I'll lose my edge. And I think energy medicine's a great way, because I show them, I use, what's called muscle testing, right? So I'll say, hold up your arm and don't
Mhm.
let me push down. And I'll take 2 fingers and I'll just push down. And you ask the body questions, and the body responds with either, an answer where I
Right.
can't push down that strong, or I push. And what's so funny is these guys are, ridiculously huge, like
Right. 300 pounds.
ridiculous, insane. Okay. And I'm tall, but I'm not huge. And when I get to the point where I have to prove to them that their darkness isn't the reason that they're successful, it's a part of who they are, but
Hmm.
they can get better by allowing themselves to let some love in, to love themselves a little bit more, and they're not going to believe me. Who am I to say, you're the best in the world? There's nobody better. I guess what you're doing works. Well, let's just see. And so we do this,
Hmm.
and it's hilarious because they'll stand there and go, do it again, do it again, do it again. You're pushing harder. I'm like, bro, I will literally hang off their arm with my whole body weight and be
Yeah.
like, I cannot push your arm down. It's not me pushing it. It's being weak because it's telling your body that this doesn't bring you energy. This takes energy.
Hmm.
When they feel that in their body, and their body is their business, right?
Yep.
And they understand the physics of she couldn't push no, there's no way what the hell? That's when usually the tears come.
Yeah. Wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Joe Buck said credits you for saving his career, his voice. Talk about that for a second. What did you do to Joe Buck?
Well, first of all, I have my patients sign a confidentiality agreement that says they won't talk about working with me. So
Okay.
I have done everything I can to not allow some of that stuff out there, which probably
It's
is
out
the
there.
worst. It's
It's
the
out
worst PR move I could have made, right? Like I'm not good. I'm not a good marketer. I'll tell you
there.
that.
Yeah. It's out there.
Yeah. So he told me after he put it in the book, and the book was published, he's like, by the way, I put it in the book, and then he hung up the phone. I was like, I'm going to kill you. Um, so Joe's dad was
Jack.
Jack Buck, and
Right.
our dads announced Cardinal baseball for years and years, and so Joe grew up like I did,
In the
and
booth.
known each other since we were little kids. And it was during the World Series that I saw him, and he looked terrible. And being like kind of like siblings, I was like, what the hell's wrong with you? You look like you have cancer or something. Like you
Yeah.
look like shit, Joe. And it's like, I know, my vocal cords are paralyzed,
Wow.
and I can't get my voice up. And I was like, I don't even know why I said it. It just kind of blurted out, like, I can fix that. And he's like, what do you mean? And I told him a little bit, because I was kind of hiding the stuff that I was doing. And I was working a lot in 2011 with the team and everything. So I told him I could fix it. And he's like, whatever. And then a couple hours later, he calls me and he goes, are you serious about it? I'm sure he asked a few people, like, he started snooping around. And I go, yeah, I am serious about it. And he goes, are you flying to Texas? And I said, yeah, I'm going to Texas because we're playing the Rangers. And he said, would you want to fly with us out there on
Yeah.
the Fox jet or whatever? And, so I went home, packed my bag real quick, and, we were leaving at 4 a.m. So I got on the plane, and he's like, first of all, Tim Carver was on there, which my dad and he were teammates. So he was like, what's Erin doing on here? And so it was kind of funny. Troy Aikman was on here, which I knew him because my brother played football, and, it's a very tight knit little community.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
everybody knows everybody, weirdly. And so I sat behind him and I said, okay, I'm going to start. And he's like, what do you mean, here? Like, yeah. And so I just started, doing work on that area. And the guy that is head of Fox Sports was, on the plane. It was like 12 of us on the plane. And all of a sudden, about 10 minutes in, Joe's like, I feel it. I feel it. And he's yelling and like waking everybody up. I'm like, shut up. Just be cool. Be cool.
Right.
Anyway, so yeah, we worked that series, and he was able to get his voice up above the crowd when David Freese hit that home run, and
Yeah.
he won an Emmy for that call. And my hands were there trying to get that sucker open. So yeah, so it worked.
What do you call that? Energy work, but is it more specific than that?
No, I mean, it was energy medicine. I was using mostly Donna Eden's energy medicine work, and just opening channels there and allowing energy to move through. And, I used my hand above it and below it to basically quantum entanglement and train the energy to move
Yeah.
through, like you were power blasting. If you've got a clogged pipe, you blast it through. And and he was doing all the things that, we worked pretty intensely for a while there, and then he kept doing the things that he needed to do, and he went back to his doctors, and the doctor's like, I don't know what
Can't,
to tell you. Whatever the hell
can't
you're doing,
explain
just do
it.
it.
Right.
Yeah.
Keep
Yeah.
doing it. That's amazing. I love that story.
Yeah.
Let me ask, before bring this in for a landing, I'm going to ask you, why is it so difficult for men to be, I'm very open. This whole platform is about, hey, look at guys, I'm talking about this. I want to encourage it and encourage people to talk, especially men. So what is it? Why is there a stigma around this? And is it a weakness for the guy in the football team to talk about this in fear of he might lose his job?
It's not a weakness in him. It's a weakness in the system.
That's what I'm saying. Right.
Yeah. And I think, truthfully, I think the last 10 years, I've seen more change in this than I saw in my entire lifetime. I think that mental health has become a common speaking point, and companies are now basically forced to get people in there to, one, stop problems from happening. But now I think we're starting to realize it actually increases the value of your business. It increases the value of the people that you've invested so much money in. And so I think we're changing, and I think we're changing much quicker than evolution would have imagined that we change. And so I think that the best thing we can do for our children is to be honest with them as we're raising them, and not pretend that everything's okay all the time. Still buffering them from things, but that it is okay to cry. It is okay to be scared. It is okay to not know what to do. It is okay to feel embarrassed. All of those things are okay. And you keep going. It's okay, and it's normal, and this is what we do next. It's also okay and normal, and no, we don't do that. That's not what we do. So we have to be honest with ourselves first, and then kids watch how you act, not what you say.
That's
So
right.
you've got to walk the walk. And that's when it reminds me of when you asked me, what's the best thing about the work I've done? When I see my boys out there on platforms that were not there before,
Mm-hmm.
saying and doing things that are brave and bold and honest. I mean,
That's
it
it.
fills my heart. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
it.
That's
And
it.
that takes me to my next question. Here you are on the Be Fucking Bold podcast. What's your definition of being bold?
Being bold, I think, it's giving yourself permission to act when you're scared, giving yourself permission to move forward when you don't know what that next step is, when no one's done it before.
Right.
And in order to be bold and brave, what do you need to feel? Scared. That's the thing. It's like we think brave is the opposite of fear, but bravery is a conditioned response that we have to teach. You can't be brave if you're not afraid. Then you're just psychotic.
Yeah, true. Yeah,
Right?
that's well put. Yeah, for sure. Right.
So in order to be brave and bold in any way, you must acknowledge the fear and do it anyway.
That's right. I love that. How can people, I see it says on you here, DrErinShannon.com. Where else can they find you? I want people to reach out to you. You are amazing. You're a wealth of knowledge. Before I go any further, here's what I want to say about you. As intelligent and as accomplished as you are, you're just the real deal. You know that, right? You wake up in the morning and say, you feel how real you really are.
I know that the more real I am, the better and easier life flows. And that's not the easiest thing to do, because you want to, we've been raised to think that we've got to act a certain way and be a certain way. But do it broken, do it fucked up and afraid and unsure, because nothing great ever came from safety. Great things come from following your heart and jumping in. And, I think you just have to understand that your job is not to be perfect. Your job is to be fully you. And that means
All of you,
encapsulating all of you.
all of you.
And most of the time, people will like you and are attracted to you because of the brokenness. I mean, think about the person that always makes themselves to be perfect and everything's perfect in my life. Perfect, perfect, perfect.
Mhm.
Nobody likes that person. It's okay to be a mess. We're all a mess. I would actually argue that the more you're comfortable with your mess, the better capable you are to be happy and successful.
Okay, now you just opened little bit of information, another question for me, and that is this. Okay, as accomplished as you are, okay, I don't think a lot of people look at you and say, "Oh, yeah, she has her challenges," but I wouldn't think a lot of people would look at you and say you're a fucking mess.
Oh,
Do
I'm
you
a fucking mess, bro. Oh,
you feel that?
oh, I know that. My mess is my magic sometimes, but yeah, I mean, 100% I'm a mess. Like,
What's your biggest mess?
oh, I'm ADHD out the wazoo. I am, let's see, I have math phobia. I suck at numbers. So when I like look at numbers, I start freaking out and can't even think straight. Um, I am afraid always to hurt someone, and I'm always feeling the need to help. And that is something that you can kill yourself, like constantly trying to help and fix and help and fix. Sometimes my biggest struggle is being kind to myself, being gentle. Like when I'm tired,
Oh,
go to sleep. Like sleep, bro. Like,
yeah.
it's okay for things to not get done. It's okay for people to not be not feel perfectly great. You can't do all of that. That's hard for me. And I feel really confident in saying that the strongest thing that I have ever done and can do every day is to allow my softness to show. Um, when you think about, like you talked about Shannon Sharp and how he seems like somebody that just, has no softness. Sometimes that outer shell, that armor that we put on the outside is because we're trying to protect that very soft inside.
Mhm.
And for me, I am so soft inside that I put my armor up all the time.
You do.
And yeah, oh gosh, yeah. Um, and it's always funny to me that people don't see through it. It's like, don't you know that that's just like
A
my armor?
guard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but it's okay to do that. But stretching yourself and being soft and vulnerable
Mhm.
is the power. That's the power. Like the quote where the crack is where the light comes in.
Yeah, right.
I've spent my whole life, helping people see that their cracks are beautiful and not an accident and not shameful, or um, just trying to do everything to break the stigma of this is what I should be, but this is what you are. And what you are is amazing.
Mhm.
Being able to live that and be okay with my messes, I need to walk that walk.
Understand. totally understand that. And as far as how do you show up in a marriage with who you are as a person and walk that it's got to be a balancing act.
Yeah. Well, again, I'm a mess. Like I'm going through my second divorce. Right. And I think the people that I picked, I think you can make a decision based out of fear, or you can make a decision based out of trust and love.
Faith.
And when you make a decision based out of fear, eventually that decision, it might be the quote unquote right decision, but that fear coats it, and it will continue to eat through it until you can allow yourself to release it and make decisions on love and trust, which is much scarier to do sometimes than make the safe decision out of, oh, I don't want that, so I'll do this instead.
Okay, somebody's listening right now that said, okay, I hear her saying fear, but what does she specifically mean by fear? Like, break that down a little bit for the person who's listening.
Any parent would say that, like, there are decisions that you make to give your children a life, a better life, a safe life, a comfortable life. And I think it's really challenging when you're making decisions with your kids in mind to not act on fear, right? Everything in me as a mom wants to protect my children.
Okay.
But it's important for me to make decisions because I trust that when I make a decision that's right, everything will be right. Not to make a decision that feels like the right choice because I can take this problem and not deal with it anymore. Does that make sense?
It does. It sounds like you had a different idea walking into it than it actually turned out to be.
That, but also, sometimes a partnership makes you feel stronger because you're in a partnership.
Mm-hmm.
But it might be that choosing a partner out of needing to feel that strength, you would choose a different partner if you were choosing a partner based on a higher vibrating feeling, right? Like trust, love, joy, things like that. If you're partnering up with someone, or if you're choosing a path because you're afraid of this path over here, that's not your highest and best path. Your highest and best path will always be what brings you joy, what lights you up, not what keeps you safe.
Yeah, you talked about this earlier. You had two excellent role models as parents. I mean, those two people right there, created the ideal marriage.
But also they were not, there was huge challenges and there were huge issues like any parents. That's important to note, that the great thing my parents had was they loved each other insanely.
Okay.
But my mom knew my dad's faults and my dad knew my mom's faults, and those certainly caused problems. And they loved each other anyway. They loved each other enough to work through it. Yeah. Did they work through it in the most, the best way? No.
The best way they knew how.
That's it. The best way they knew how, and they admitted when they were wrong. They admitted it to each other. They admitted it to us. So we got the opportunity to see mistakes being made by people that we loved, who said, I made a mistake, and now moving forward. Not every time, not always.
No, nothing's perfect.
Right. But I definitely had two extremely different parents that found a way to make a family work. They had enough common values and common love in exchange that it did work.
It got through the tough times.
And they wanted each other to be happy. I think a lot of times people forget, like, don't you want the best for this person?
Right.
You know? And it's like, you've got to be able to love somebody so much that wanting the best for them is priority, even if that means if you have to go find the best somewhere else. If that's the best thing for you, I love you. And that's hard to do.
Yeah. You know, here's how my brain sees this. Okay.
Yeah.
And this is just, I'm going to be boldly honest with you.
Okay.
This is who I am. So I'm looking at you as somebody who's very intelligent. You're top of your class in your profession. You had two great role models as parents. So my brain says, well, why is she getting divorced twice?
Yeah.
You know, and that's just being honest. Because
Yeah.
right. And
Yeah.
so then my question is, if that's your situation,
Right.
who can you, the rest of us have no chance.
Right. Well, here's what I would say. I would say this, that when you decide to marry someone, there's got to be an understanding that the way things are then, it's not the way they're going to be in 10 years, 20 years. And that sometimes one person grows, the other person has to choose to grow or not grow. And if one person says, hey, this is what I married, and you're not acting like that anymore, or all of a sudden things change, life changes every day, you're different, and you have to learn to grow together and be okay with some of the difference and growing pains as you move forward. For me, I think it is as important as anything for children to see their parents happy and healthy, because if we stay in a marriage and we're not happy, healthy, respected, cared for, whatever, again, it's not what you say, it's what you do. And I don't want my kids growing up, I got one boy and 5 girls. I don't want my kids growing up thinking that's what it means to be a woman.
6 kids. So we're all 6 in the same house with you?
Right now, yeah, because 4 of my college kids are all home. So 6 kids in the
Man, that's a lot of that's a lot of kids.
So
do you find it's because of your experience and what you do for work? Do you find that your gene pool your selection of men is smaller because of who you are? It's like, man, I know who I am. I got this. I have this expectations of what I want, but not too many people are where you're at. Would you agree with that? As far as spiritually, emotionally developed?
I would say that just because you're smart, you're not emotionally intelligent, right? And so those two things are very different things. And
no. Well, hold on a second. I'm saying because of where you are in the space you're in, the smart intelligence up here is like you know yourself as a person. You know what you're looking for. You're very well spiritually developed, right? I'm not saying you're an accountant. Now you should have the world. No, I'm saying in your space, in your field, you are very well developed, and you know a lot as far as the spiritual, the personal growth, the development, that part of it there. That's intelligence. When I look at somebody like that, it's like they are in tune with who they are, and so therefore, why don't you think they should be in tune as far as what they want and who they're going to gravitate and attract into their life?
And I would say that for myself, my first marriage, I think I chose the up here made sense. Like on paper, this looks good. The first person I chose was not an athlete. He was a businessman. He was not anything that, and for me, I was like, oh, then I wouldn't have to deal with, all the things that come along with that life.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I remember telling my dad and I was very ashamed that I was getting divorced. Like this is not what I wanted to do with 6 children. And he had personality disorder. Things were bad. And I had to get out to give my kids a chance. But I remember telling my dad, and my dad said, well, why did you marry? Why did you? And he kept asking me, like, he trying to understand, why did you marry him? And he he takes his finger and he thunks me on the head, and he goes, after I explained what I thought, he said, "Are you telling me you use this instead of this?" He's like, "You got to be the dumbest in the world." I was like, he's right. He is damn right. I was making a decision based on what I didn't want, not what I did want.
Okay.
Right.
Yep.
Now, the second time around, I think I had fought so hard to get my kids out of that and to struggle to try to find a life that they could feel safe and buffered from that.
Okay.
And where I was for the first time in my life as an adult, I felt safe. I was, in kind of embedded in a team that environment made me feel safe. When I went to work, I felt pretty safe. I wanted to give safety to my kids because I hadn't felt safe for such a long time. And I knew more than anything in the world, I had to get my kids safe. And so I think I was just bathed in fear and trauma.
Oh, gotcha.
And so I was looking for strength and security and safety. And I'm sure I attracted someone that was looking for someone that would appreciate their strength and safety and providing.
Okay.
And so many times we meet people and bond with our wounds. And, and other things changed, neurologically things changed and people changed. And I would say right now, this point in my life, I could look back and say everything I've ever worked for, like, I'm starting over. I'm 50. I'm starting over. Okay. So, like what? All right.
Okay, you're starting over now. Do you have your what does Erin want? What is Erin looking for this time around? Are you looking to get married again?
I don't even know about that. I think I'm still in I'm every day waking up, trying to, before I get out of bed, not allow fear that, it's okay to be afraid when you're like, I have to start all over and I have nothing. It's okay to feel afraid. That's scary. But I don't want that to be the lens I view my life. I want to make decisions with trust and with love and with joy. I would love to make the next 50 years of my life the best by not running on fear and trying to do what I think is the right thing to do. I need to obviously do all the things that I know I need to do day in and day out, but I also want to make sure that I'm not wrapped up in fear. And I don't want to be bitter. I want to be able to see human beings for who they are. I don't think I've ever been bitter because I do see the beauty in people. Like the most broken, crazy people are very beautiful. And so I would love to love and be loved, but I think my highest wish is for peace. I
Inner
just would
peace.
love to
Yeah.
be peaceful
Yeah.
and be able to wake up and do what I wanted to do. And I think most of us would love that too.
You said that makes 1000% sense because if you would have asked me my darkest hour, what do I really want? My answer would have been, and it still is to this day, I want emotional freedom. That's what I want to experience. I don't care about the next sports car, another house, another spouse, this or that. None of it. I remember I was in the mountains of Colorado. My dad called me. He was talking me off the ledge. I said, Dad, I can't do this anymore. And he said, Brett, what would you want right now? I said, Dad, here's how bad this is. And I know money doesn't buy everything. So I said, Dad, here's how bad this is. I could go to the store right now, get a Powerball ticket for the biggest jackpot of history, and it wouldn't make an ounce of difference in how I feel about myself right now. I said, Dad, I'm so down, miserable, and out. I said, I don't want to live anymore. I just want out of this life.
Yeah.
That's how bad I was.
Yeah.
So what I really wanted, and what people understand, take away from this interview, is that there's no amount of money that's going to buy that.
No.
There's no spouse, person, place, event, or thing. You have to understand that. The first thing is, I want emotional freedom. You said it best. You want peace. Peace, emotional freedom. Inside, it happens here. It's not going to happen out there. So yes, I can't agree with you more. Yeah. I can't, because I totally relate. I feel what you're saying because of what I've been through.
Yeah.
So everything you're saying makes 100% sense.
And I think that we have a challenge that, we've always been taught that what brings status and success and are these things, right? Achieving these things. And I think some of the darkest, loneliest people are in, look, I know that it feels like, oh, crocodile tears, poor them. They're the best person in the world. And they have all these gold medals and all these billions of dollars or whatever. But when you've run your whole life at the speed of light through pain, barefoot on glass, crawling, nothing, relentlessly seeking, and you get that thing, you get that Stanley Cup, you get that Super Bowl, you sell the company for $5 billion, and then you go home and you take a shower and you look and you're still there with all the shit. It didn't do anything.
Right. Well, I get it. I raised my hand because I understand that. I've been in a situation where I thought all those things I was chasing was going to change.
Check.
It was, and it makes it worse.
It makes it 100 times worse because now there's nothing that's wrong but you.
Right. That takes me back to the story I just shared with you about the lottery ticket. My dad. It's like there's nothing out there. I would nothing. I want it here. So you said something that stuck with me. You said you're starting over with nothing at 50, with everything you've accomplished, everything you've done, your reputation.
It's important that you caught that. No one can take away my education. No one can take away my wisdom, which is not education, it's experiences. The greatest thing in the world is I have my 6 children. I have full custody of my 6 children. We're all alive and okay. But starting over from financially, having to get rid of everything's gone and literally start over, figure out how to send now 6 kids to college by themselves, by myself. That's daunting. I know I can do it. I know I have to do it. I mean, you have to, right? But I want to do it with joy and I want to do it with ease. Mm-hmm. And a lot of my attention right now is making sure that I get myself into that place every morning before I get out of bed, because it's going to take some quantum leap, superhuman shit to get from where I am to where I want to go. But I know that I can do it. It's just not going to be the normal way. Like, oh, well, maybe you should start, maybe you should get a job here or start saving here. I'm going to have to figure something out. But I know when I allow myself to trust in that
process,
inner magic, all great things have always, for me, have come out of, shit. Like when you're in the fire, you say, fuck it. Like, let's go.
Let's do it.
Right. Nobody else can do it. But this time I want to do it not like, blood, sweat, and tears. I want to do it in a way that, and I know it's possible. I want to do it with ease and with love and with joy. Mm-hmm. And if I want to do that, then it's extremely important for me to take a mental note and energetically make sure that I feel in my body peace and joy and love before I let myself get out of bed in the morning.
That's 100%, because that's what's going to be the energy you want to be the energy you want to attract. I have it above my bed. Be the energy you want to attract. I don't get out of bed. I will not get out of bed before I do my 15, 20, sometimes 30 minutes of gratitude, and not
whatever it takes,
not exactly, but not what I'm grateful for, because those things can go away. Here's what I've tricked my brain to do. what would it feel like? What's the feeling of gratitude without the attachments? How can you feel content without the attachment? Just the feeling of gratitude. What does it feel like? Again, make my brain answer that question. Before I go to bed, I make my brain answer that question. What does it feel like? Just the feeling of gratitude. That's it. Nothing else. Right now,
Why,
what
not how?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. I believe in you. Whatever you're listen to me. I will never forget this interview. I 1000%, and this is no bullshit. There's nothing to gain for me here. I believe in you in a successful future moving forward. That's the truth.
And for the first time, I can say, and because I've gone through the stuff that I have, I believe in me too. And there's part of me that is like, it can't be another way. Like, and that's, if you look from the outside, that's psychotic. Okay. If you look from the outside logically, you would say, Erin, you're crazy. There's like, this is fucked up. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? But that's the outside, and that is malleable to me. And my inside, I don't choose that. I am going to choose, I know I'm going to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
But this time I'm going to figure it out in love and in joy and in peace. And
Right.
what you said is huge, because I think a lot of times when we look into the space of manifesting and quantum physics and, all of those things, there's a lot of people that try to get linear about it. Okay, if I do this vision board and then I do this and then I do this, then I do this. What you said is so huge, and I'm going to use that. Without attachment. If I felt just the feeling,
Right.
joy or peace or love, just that,
Right.
because I had someone to love, because I have money in the bank to feed my kids, because no, just the feeling. Because what gives us that feeling changes all the time,
Right.
right? When you're a
Yeah.
kid, maybe it was a new puppy. When you're an adult, maybe it's a non-cancer diagnosis,
Sure.
right? So that's always going to shift. But what stays consistent is the feeling we want to feel. When you feel that feeling now,
Mm-hmm.
and let that be your guiding light for the day, magic happens.
It literally saved my life.
And what you just said was so good, because like for me, I have a hard time sometimes when I'm trying to manifest things, or when I'm trying to get my headspace right. Especially if, things are hard and I've got fear I'm working through, which is when you should do it most. I tend to get a little OCD about my stuff, right? So I'm like, well, what would I want? Well, shit, I don't know. Like, I don't know. And would I want this? Well, no. How would I? And then you start to mind fuck yourself,
Big
right?
time. Big
And
time.
so what you said about like that untethered, nothing connected to it, no why, just the feeling, makes it so easy.
It does. It's contentment without attachment. And the ordinary senses are going to tell you, look at the situation,
Right?
look how bad it is. You
Get
override. So you override the ordinary senses with your imagination. And again, you create the feeling inside. When you create the feeling, that feeling is going to bring on more of that same feeling. It's going to be duplicated.
And you're going
Tenfold,
to be,
10x.
if you're doing it and saying, why is it so easy for me to feel joy? Why is it so easy for me to feel peace? Why is it so easy for me to know everything is fine? Then not only do I walk out with that feeling and I'm vibrating and sending out that bat signal, but my subconscious mind is scanning the environment to find evidence to prove that correct.
True. And the subconscious is based on feeling. It's not going to manifest until it becomes a feeling.
It doesn't hear no, it doesn't hear not or but.
Just the feeling.
That's right. And so if the feeling is the fuel that's running the machine,
Yep.
then, let's get simple about it. Like, don't make it hard.
Hard. Don't make it
It's
hard.
hard enough. It's really hard when what you feel inside and what you're cultivating to feel inside, there's evidence outside of the exact opposite of that.
Right. That goes back to the senses. The senses are going to keep telling you how bad it is, what it's like, why you can't do it, and you got to override. When you have a mental adjustment and change your mental conditioning to say, okay, I'm going to override that fucker. I'm going to go right up to my imagination, create the feeling inside before I go to bed in the morning, without the attachment to anything or anybody. Then I enter the world and start bringing that vibration towards me.
And I just got a big smile on my face because I'm thinking about one of the guys I work with that, like is in that Stanley Cup run. And when you're in that Stanley Cup run in hockey, you're so tired. You're so beaten down. Like I remember, I thought I was going to die at the end. Wow. And I'm not on the ice. Like I was a physical disaster by the end. And I've, Super Bowls, World Series, hockey, whew, that's different. That run for that cup was something that, man alive. But I remember when I knew we were going to win, what shifted. And it's never any big dramatic thing. It's never that. It's always me seeing in one or two guys, it just click. And it was that, let's just focus real clearly on one thing. How do you want to feel?
Mm-hmm.
Feel it, know it, go out there and don't watch the moment. Don't be the moment.
Yeah.
And I can see, like, energetically from a million miles away, like wham, when they felt that. And it only takes one or two, and then you see everybody else. They don't even know they're doing it, but I'm like, oh, we won. Oh, hell no, we won. Right. I mean, I knew it wasn't a surprise.
Right.
Like, I can leave. I can go.
Yep.
Like,
the feeling.
And it was that, despite all evidence to the contrary, fuck it.
Yeah.
Go.
You
already know God made you for this.
Exactly.
So go be all of that.
And what that does, it puts you in a mode of action, because you can be self-aware all day long. You can recognize, like, I got this, I got that. Sure, you understand that, but what's going to close the gap between self-awareness and results is action. And if your action is based on fear, you're not going to take the action. If your action is based on faith and trust, then you will move forward and start to create the results through the action.
And what I think people need to understand is that it feels, when you're in fear, it feels like fire is the furthest thing away, but they're not. They're right next to each other. They're right next to each other. And you just have to tip over into fire or love or trust.
Or faith.
Correct. Allowing anything. But it feels like they're a million miles apart, but they're not. You can't have fear without love, because I can't be afraid to lose my life if I don't love my life.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So if you can just realize that the fear is the lie that we cover the love with. So just take that off, and you can feel your energy come up.
Right.
It's so energy heavy to walk around in fear and mind fucking yourself all the time, worrying like, what if this and then this and this and this, and how am I going to and 90% of the time, 90% of that stuff doesn't happen that we're afraid of, but it's exhausting.
Yeah, I just put a post up yesterday. I call it the worst case what ifs. It all happens here. Oh. The worst case what ifs happen here. Rarely ever happen out there. But in the process, we're mind fucking ourselves. So then now we're feeling depression, anxiety, hopelessness.
We're calling it in.
Despair,
prophecy.
Yeah. Right.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And breaking the loop of that trauma loop that we get in. And like you said, when all you felt and saw was darkness, that's all you knew. You forgot what the light was. But we cannot have, there's no such thing as darkness. It's just absence of light.
Right.
It's just the absence of light. It looks dark. The monster under the bed isn't scary when we look under there. So it's looking for the light that cures the dark.
Exactly. Great interview, by the way.
This was a great interview. I'm telling you, I learned so much. Like, I'm going to use that, not getting bogged down in the details. That was huge.
Contentment without attachment.
Love it.
Contentment without attachment. Just the feeling. without the attachment to the things that can change and go away.
Yeah.
I want to have you back. I really do. I really want to have you back because there's a wealth of knowledge with you, and we want to keep up and see how you're progressing. And because you have such a great story, but you're a real person.
And I'm right in the middle of it too. Like, I don't think it's an accident that we had this conversation.
There's never an accident.
Right?
You know, coincidence is God's way of staying anonymous, always.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Right.
100%.
Yeah.
I agree.
So how can people find you? DrErinShannon.com. Where else? You're on IG?
I'm on Instagram
TikTok?
and all those things. Yeah. LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter. I'm not good at TikTok. That makes me nervous.
Okay.
But all the other ones I'm there.
Okay.
It's just I just look up my name and it comes up. It should come
Right
up.
on.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. And what's the one thing you're gonna leave somebody with today who said, "Man, I love this interview. I usually go about an hour. You and I are over 90 minutes into this thing. They're still with us. So they're like, oh my God, this is a wealth of knowledge. They want one bold nugget that they're going to take away from this entire interview and start using it tomorrow morning. What is that going to look like?
I think the most powerful thing you can do is imagine if somebody handed you a magic wand and you could change everything and anything about either your life or maybe a traumatic memory. What would you change? Get that picture in your head, then bring it into your body and run it through your body and feel how it feels in your body to have whatever it is, either your current life or maybe a bad memory from the past, perfect. And when you feel how different your body feels, you realize, wow, that was powerful. I just had to imagine it.
Mm-hmm.
And I have seen people reverse deadly diseases that were, not supposed to ever go away by doing that, by allowing themselves to heal themselves from past traumas, from current situations. We have barely scratched the surface of what we can do. But I think now Western medicine is catching up with this. It feels like imagination. It's not.
Yeah, no, well, I was going to say our most creative power is our imagination because we can imagine ourselves into a bad situation. And I firmly believe, speaking from experience, I can imagine myself out of the situation just by the feeling.
That's right.
The two sides of every coin. Flip the coin over. There's a whole other feeling on the other side of that coin. You're the best.
First.
I appreciate you. I really do.
I appreciate you too. Thank you so much. And I look forward to our next combo.
And it'll be happening. I promise you guys. All right, in the meantime, you guys be fucking bold. I'll catch you in the next one.